right now we are in ascension and the vibration is changing, and that is why people are jumping timelines, and there is so much of shift. So what do you think, and what is your understanding about the predictions that we are giving right?
Mm. Yeah, so you could almost say that we have different layers of our being, right? There's a very soul layer, there's obviously the universal soul, Brahman, as it's called in Vedic system. Then there's the collective consciousness, the realm of the lokas and gods and goddesses. Then there's a part of the soul that is connected to us. They're called the Jiva Atman. So it's like, it's the soul, but it has some ego connection. And then there's the ego, right? And the ego is so powerful that we can literally use our mind and our ego to completely go opposite direction from what our soul is trying to do. Right? So soul is trying to evolve in this direction, and we usurp the journey. Like my soul is trying to be a Jyotishi, and instead I'm like, no, I'm going to be a CEO of a company. And I'm just pushing to rise up in the corporate ranks, make more money, more power. And eventually, like, you drift so far apart, you forget who you are, right? So when you do these practices, you start to come back to soul. So, and we understand in the Vedic system that whatever your soul is intending to do is reflected in the heavens at the moment of birth. And so when we cast a horoscope, when we cast a birth chart, we're casting a map of the sky at the moment this soul took an incarnation in this lifetime. And we're then trying to read and interpret what is the soul trying to do. And so a Jyotishi is then looking and saying, okay, here's the map of your soul. Here's what your soul is actually trying to do. Now you may try to force it a different direction. So that can change things, right? Now, the thing is, in Western astrology, because the math is incorrect and is not a soul focused thing, it's an ego focused thing. Like, let's understand your psychology, your personality, your ego. Wherever you've drifted to, let's understand that. Versus Vedic system is trying to correct it. Now, a Western astrologer, a lot of times they have very powerful intuition. They have psychic abilities. A lot of times they have mediumship. So even if the math is incorrect or the chart is incorrect, they still give very accurate understanding because they're connecting to higher source and they're using these powers to give pretty good predictions. Western astrologers are very successful in doing these things, but they're relying on these other powers. But in Vedic astrology, let's say you have no powers. Like I have no powers. No, it's nothing special. I'm just an engineer trained. So I add up the logic. And so adding up the logic, you can come to very powerful conclusions without any intuition required. Then you layer on intuition, you layer on abilities, and now you've got superpower, right? In a way. So when it comes to predicting, the prediction is happening partially through the accurate understanding of the planets, the dasha periods, the transits, and knowing that these are the energies at play. But it also depends on the consciousness of the person who you're predicting for. And based on their consciousness, your consciousness astrologer, and whatever higher power is coming through, the different deities are helping, then you can make the accurate prediction, regardless of what's happening ascension-wise or in the universe, right? You go through all that clutter to the truth. Does that make sense?
Yeah. When you just mentioned that when you are doing the reading, let's say for a person, you have a very solid math in the Vedic astrology, and then there is another layer of intuition. So,
Yes.
and you also talked about our rishis cognizing and getting downloads from the universe, from the source. So, have you had any case where the Vedic astrology chart gave something, and then you got a very strong download about that person's chart or anything, and that created a very different kind of impact? So, do you have any
Yeah,
case like that?
definitely. I mean, it happens all the time, right? Because you pull the chart
Mm.
and then these seemingly random events happen around you. A garbage truck goes by, police car goes by, somebody falls down and screams outside, some crow appears in the window. So the universe is constantly trying to send us messages and signals, especially as a Jyotishi. And, we start to say, oh, this interruption, why is it bothering me? But then you have to say, wait a minute, the universe is communicating. Or I'm with a client and they get a text. And then I'm like, well, what is that text you got? And they're like, why are you asking me about my text? I said, it's important. And then they'll say it. I said, oh, this explains this. And like, oh my God, how did you know that? Because the universe is constantly communicating. And just last week, I had a client who was born in 1973. And, I was preparing the birth chart ahead of time. And somehow when I put it in the software, I put in 73, as if they're born in 0073, not 1973. Instead of 1973, I put 0073 somehow. So that's the chart I started analyzing. I'm doing this full analysis on somebody. And then finally, oh no, it's 73. I put 19. So then I pulled another chart, 1973, and I did that analysis. Then the person came online and they started telling me what their problems are. And I'm looking in the chart and trying to help them understand. And I said, look, I could tell the person was quite spiritually conscious. They had a very regular meditation practice. So I said, I just want to tell you what happened this morning. You're telling me your challenge. I had pulled up the wrong date, 0073, but that chart actually has the clues to your question. So the question they asked, once I looked at the 0073 chart, even though they're not born in 73, I had the exact precise explanation of what was going on in their life. I mean, they were just blown away by it. And now, like, here I am telling you have to have the right math. I had the completely wrong math, but it gave me the exact answer I needed. And I was able to give her a very specific remedy and ritual based on that incorrect chart. So you just don't always know. When something happens, you have to learn to just sort of relax a little bit into it. Whatever that chart came, it has some purpose. Even in Vedic astrology, we have a technique called prashna. When somebody asks me a question, if I pull a chart for that moment of the question, often there's an answer very clearly given there. How is that? What is so special at that moment of question? The moment an email arrives in my inbox, that timestamp, I can pull a chart for that moment and get a lot of insight around what's going on for that person. So everything is this divine, sophisticated connection. So the birth chart has value. The moment of the question, prashna chart has value. And even the incorrect chart has value.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's all divinely orchestrated. And these are the synchronicities through which I think, but it's incredible that you got the
Yeah,
answer in the wrong
exactly.
chart.
Divinely orchestrated is a beautiful way to explain it, and it's beyond our understanding because that orchestra is so complex. I can't wrap our minds around it.
Yeah.